Today, September 20th. The Metropolitan Art Gallery. The humidity is exactly 72%. The air smells like overpriced champagne and white musk. It is the scent of 1% effort and 99% deception. Isabella is standing in the center of the room, under the $50,000 crystal chandelier. She is wearing a silk gown by Elie Saab, petal pink. Retail price, $18,400. She is wearing a smile that cost exactly $12,000 in porcelain veneers. I am sitting in the shadows of the catering tent. I am the event coordinator. I am the invisible hand that ensured the temperature of the room is exactly 68 degrees. I am the one who knows that the champagne is actually a $15 sparkling wine poured into $200 bottles. I am the one who knows the truth about the diamonds around her neck. They are high-quality lab-grown stones, worth $2,000. She tells people they are heirlooms worth $150,000. My mother is standing next to her. Catherine. She is wearing a vintage Hermes scarf with a microscopic moth hole near the edge. She whispered to me 10 minutes ago. Sophie, honey, try to stay in the kitchen. You look a bit dusty. We don't want the donors to think Isabella has a sister who smells like work. It ruins the aesthetic. If you're watching this, please subscribe. Leave a comment and tell me. Have you ever been told your hard work was an embarrassment to your family's image? The parallel contrast. Isabella got the private equestrian lessons at $250 an hour. Isabella got the silk bedding with a 1,000 thread count. Isabella got the Chanel Num. 5 perfume for her 16th birthday. I got a polyester sleeping bag because the guest room is for Isabella's dresses. I got a job at a laundromat at 14 because Sophie needs to learn the value of $1. I got the job of driving Isabella to her debutante meetings while I did her math homework in the front seat. Catherine said, Isabella has a spark, Sophie. She is a fragile orchid. You are a cactus. You can survive on nothing. You are stable like a piece of granite, and granite exists to be walked on. 2022, the betrayal. I was 30 years old. I had worked 16 hours a day for 6 years. I had $85,422.10 in an account. My boutique design fund. I kept the bank book in a locked box under my bed, the bed I bought with my own money. One Tuesday, the box was open. The book was gone. The balance on my phone app showed $0. I found the receipt on the kitchen counter. It wasn't a bank error. It was a transfer to the Elite Protocol School of London and a $15,000 deposit for a PR firm called Lux Image Management. I walked into the living room. My mother was brushing Isabella's hair, using a Mason Pearson brush. $275. The money is gone, Mom. I said it like I was reading a weather report. Partly cloudy. 0% chance of rain. Oh, Sophie, Catherine said. She didn't stop brushing. The sound of the bristles against Isabella's hair was like a dry wind. This is her window. She needs to enter the circles where the real money is. Your design firm is just a hobby. You're built for the background, Sophie. Isabella was built for the spotlight. When she marries a billionaire, we'll all be taken care of. Think of it as a family investment. You're so sturdy, you can always earn more. But Isabella only has her youth. She looked back at me through the mirror. She didn't say thank you. She didn't say she was sorry. She just adjusted her Cartier love bracelet. The one bought with $7,000 of my rent money. Don't be selfish, Sophie, Isabella whispered. I'm the face of this family, and a face needs a proper setting. I realized then that I wasn't a daughter. I was the fuel for a furnace that would never be satisfied. I walked out of the room. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I went to my room and started a new spreadsheet. Title, The Cost of the Spotlight. The audit of their souls had officially begun. The $85,000 didn't just disappear. It became The Socialite Starter Kit. $15,000 went to a speech and grace coach, a woman who taught Isabella how to hold a crystal glass without her pinky twitching. $20,000 went to a wardrobe consultant, a man who told her that she should never wear the same dress twice if the event was photographed. $10,000 went to Instagram aesthetic management, a team that flew her to the Amalfi Coast for 3 days just to take 200 photos in different outfits. I paid for the flights. I paid for the $400 a night hotel rooms. I paid for the $18 avocado toast she ate on the balcony. I watched it happen from the background. I was working 3 jobs now. 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Cleaning luxury condos. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Project manager at a mid-tier construction firm. 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Freelance event planning. I smelled like industrial lemon cleaner and sweat. Isabella smelled like Baccarat Rouge 540. $325 a bottle. When I came home, my mother would hand me the dry cleaning bill. Sophie, honey, Isabella's silk needs a special organic wash. It's $85. You don't mind, do you? You're so stable. You have that steady paycheck. Stable like a piece of furniture. I paid the bill. I added it to the spreadsheet. Every dollar was a record. Every cent was a nail. Flashback to 2015. I was 23. I graduated from my design program. I wanted a $500 sewing machine to start my bridal line. My mother told me, "We can't afford it, Sophie. Isabella needs a new smile. Her teeth are a bit crowded, and it ruins her profile." I spent that summer working at a car wash. I watched the water hit the windshields of cars I would never own. I earned the $5,000 for Isabella's braces. On my graduation day, my mother wasn't there. She was at the orthodontist with Isabella. She sent me a text. "Good job, honey. Can you pick up dinner on the way home? Something healthy for Isabella." The charity gala was Isabella's big debut. She had successfully convinced the world she was an independent philanthropist. She had a charity called Pure Water, Pure Hearts, a foundation that had no office, no staff, just an Instagram page, and my bank account. The gala was at the Metropolitan Art Gallery. Isabella wanted 500 donors. She wanted a $100,000 fundraising goal. She wanted a visionary award. She asked me to coordinate the event. "Because you're so good with the details, Sophie. And since you're family, you can do it for free. It's for the pure water, remember?" I agreed. I looked at the guest list. Billionaires. Real estate moguls. The man Isabella was targeting? Julian Thorne. A man who inherited a steel empire. A man who values authenticity. I smiled at Isabella. It was a cold, mechanical movement of my lips. "I'll make it perfect," I said. "I'll make sure everyone sees the real you." I negotiated with the vendors. I knew which caterer would accept a promotional mention instead of cash. I knew which florist was desperate for a tax write-off. But most importantly, I knew the debt. My mother had taken out 3 private loans to bridge the gap, $150,000 in high-interest debt, using the family home as collateral. She thought Julian Thorne would propose tonight. She thought the debt would vanish in a puff of diamond dust. She didn't realize I was the one who had introduced her to the lender, a lender who reports to me. Revenge is a cold math. It requires a precise calculation of leverage. Most people think revenge is about anger. It's not. Anger is messy. Anger leaves fingerprints. Revenge is about gravity. You just remove the support and let the weight do the work. While my mother and Isabella were picking out the font for the gala invitations, I was doing the grind montage. I worked as a junior clerk for a debt collection agency. I learned how to find the cracks in a person's financial facade. 27 years old. I became a licensed notary. I learned the power of a signature. 29 years old. I started my own silent consulting firm. I helped wealthy families hide their assets during divorces. I became a ghost in the financial system. I moved my own money, the money they thought was gone, into offshore accounts they couldn't touch. I let them believe they were winning. I let them believe I was the stable cactus. Sophie, we need another $5,000 for the lighting. The Pure Water Gala needs to look ethereal. You don't want Isabella to look shadowed, do you? I paid the $5,000. I didn't tell them it was a loan from a company I own. I didn't tell them the interest rate was 15%. I didn't tell them that every dollar they spent was a brick in their own prison. Flashback to 2018. I was 26. I was dating a man named Mark. He was a high school teacher. He liked the way I looked in my worn-out jeans. He liked that I could fix a leaky faucet. He wanted to propose. My mother invited him to lunch. I wasn't there, she told him. Sophie is a very functional girl. She's focused on the grind. She'll never be able to give you the romance you want, Mark. She's too busy being our anchor to ever be your wife. You should find someone who has. Spark laughed. He didn't even say goodbye. He left a note on my kitchen table, right next to the laundromat schedule. I don't want to be the second priority in your life, Sophie. I hope the anchor keeps you safe. I didn't cry. I just added marriage prospects to the ledger of things they owed me. September 19th, the night before the gala. I sat in the kitchen of the family home, the house that was now 90% owned by my shell company. Isabella was trying on her $18,400 Ellie Saab gown. Do I look like a queen, Sophie? Do I look like a girl Julian Thorne would give a steel empire to? You look exactly like the girl you were meant to be, I said. Fragile. Expensive. Hollow. Catherine beamed. She's a masterpiece, isn't she, Sophie? And you've done a wonderful job with the flowers. Now don't forget to wear the black catering uniform tomorrow. We want you to blend in. A cactus shouldn't stand in the middle of a rose garden. I felt the weight of the USB drive in my pocket. The USB drive that contained the bank records of Pure Water, Pure Hearts. The records that showed that 95% of the donations had been spent on Isabella's silk and Catherine's Botox. The records that Julian Thorne, a man who lost his mother to contaminated water, would find very interesting. The night before the execution is always the quietest. I checked the placements. Table 1, Julian Thorne. Table 2, the mayor. Table 3, the CEO of the largest bank in the city. Isabella's Pure Water Board members. People who had no idea they were the cast of a theatrical fraud. I looked at the centerpiece on Julian's table. It was a glass bowl of perfectly clear water, surrounded by white orchids. Symbolism. Purity. I knew that the water in that bowl cost more than the total amount Isabella had actually spent on her charity. The math. $100,000 raised in pre-donations. $95,000 spent on operational expenses, dresses, flights, PR. $5,000 sitting in a bank account. $0 spent on actual water filters. I sat in the dark gallery. The only sound was the hum of the climate control system. I remembered 2008, the year our father left. He didn't leave a note. He just left a pile of debt. My mother sat on the floor and cried for 3 days. Isabella, 10 years old, cried because she couldn't go to her dance recital. I was 12. I went to the neighbor's house and asked to mow their lawn. I earned $20. I bought bread and milk. I didn't cry. I realized that someone had to be the granite. Sophie, are you still here? It was Catherine. She was walking through the gallery, holding a glass of wine. A $120 bottle of Camus. She looked at the orchids. It's breathtaking, Sophie. You really are a marvel with the logistics. It's a shame you don't have Isabella's presence. You could have been something in this town. But I suppose every queen needs a vizier. I'm happy in the shadows, Mom. I said it with the cold clarity of a surgeon. The shadows are where the real work happens. Exactly, she said, taking a sip of the wine. And tomorrow, the shadows will pay off. Julian Thorne asked about Isabella today. He called her a refreshing soul. Can you believe it? Our little Bella, the wife of a billionaire. We'll never have to worry about a bill again. We'll be the Thorne family. And you? We'll find you a nice position in Julian's office. Something stable? Filing papers? Keeping the accounts? You'd like that, wouldn't you? I think I'd be very good at keeping the accounts, I said. She patted my cheek. Her fingers were cold. They smelled of expensive night cream and desperation. You're a good girl, Sophie. A sturdy girl. Now go home and get some sleep. You have to be at the service entrance at 6 a.m. And remember, the black uniform. No jewelry. No makeup. We want Julian to see the pure light of the orchid, not the thorns of the cactus. I watched her walk away. Her silk robe whispered against the marble floor. I thought about the pure water donations. I thought about the $12,000 veneers. I thought about the $85,422.10 that was the price of my soul. The weather report for tomorrow. High of 75. Cloudy. 100% chance of a total collapse. The gala began at 7 p.m. The elite of the city poured into the Metropolitan Art Gallery. Men in $5,000 tuxedos. Women in gowns that cost more than a teacher's annual salary. I was in my black uniform. I carried a tray of champagne. I was a ghost. I stood 3 feet from Julian Thorne. He was talking to a real estate mogul. I've seen so many frauds in this city, Julian said. His voice was deep, granite. People who used charity to polish their own image. But Isabella, she's different. She has a quiet passion. She doesn't talk about the money. She talks about the families. Champagne, sir? He took the glass. He didn't look at my face. He looked at the tray. Thank you, he said. At 9 p.m., Isabella took the stage. The spotlight hit the Ellie Saab gown. She looked ethereal, the fragile orchid in full bloom. She spoke into the microphone. Her voice was soft, rehearsed. Water is the essence of life, she began. In the villages I visited, a clean glass of water is a miracle. With pure water, pure hearts, we are making those miracles happen. Tonight, we aren't just raising money. We are saving souls. My mother was in the front row. She was dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief. She looked at the billionaires. She was already counting the wedding gifts. Now, Isabella said, her voice trembling with fake emotion, I want to show you the impact of your pre-donations. A short film about our latest project. I was at the back of the room, near the AV booth. The technician was a 22-year-old kid named Leo. He was bored. He was looking at his phone. Ready for the video? I whispered. Yeah, whatever, he said. He hit the button. The screen behind Isabella flickered. But it wasn't the video of pure water filters in a village. It was a spreadsheet. A cold black and white audit. Title, Pure Water, Pure Hearts. Financial Expenditure Report. Line 1, Ellie Saab Couture, $18,400. Line 2, PR and Social Media Management, $25,000. Line 3, First Class Flights to Amalfi, $12,000. Line 4, Porcelain Veneers, $12,000. Line 25, Actual water filter purchases, $0. The room went silent, the kind of silence that happens right before a building collapses. Isabella froze. The spotlight was still on her, but the fragile orchid now looked like a deer in the headlights of a semi-truck. The spreadsheet scrolled up. Next slide. A photo of the loan agreement Catherine had signed. The one using the family home as collateral. The one that was now in default. The one owned by Granite Holdings LLC. Next slide. A video. Not of a village, but of Isabella in Amalfi. She was laughing. She was holding a $400 cocktail. She was saying, I can't believe Sophie actually fell for the business fund thing. She's such a cactus. As long as she has her stability, she'll keep paying the bills. She's literally our ATM. I stood in the back of the room. I took off my catering apron. Underneath, I was wearing a silk dress of my own, Armani, bought with the interest from the loans they didn't know I owned. I walked down the center aisle. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. I stopped at Julian Thorne's table. Julian was looking at the screen. His face was the color of a steel blade. He looked at Isabella. Then he looked at me. "Is this true?" Julian asked. His voice was a low growl. I looked at the stage. Isabella was shaking. Catherine was screaming at the AV booth, but no one was listening. "The math is always true, Julian," I said. "I'm the event coordinator. I'm the one who ensures every detail is perfect. And tonight, the detail is the truth." I turned to my mother. She was staring at me. Her mouth was open. The Hermes scarf was crooked. "Sophie, what have you done?" I've moved the furniture, Mom," I said. "I've pulled the base out from under the throne. And as for the ATM, the account is closed." The security guards moved toward the stage, not to protect Isabella, but to escort her out. The donors were demanding their money back. The Visionary Award was sitting on the floor. I looked at Julian Thorne. He stood up. He didn't look at Isabella. He looked at me. "You're the one who planned this whole evening?" "Every detail," I said. "Including the audit." "I like your logistics, Sophie," he said. "But I like your coldness even more. Call my office tomorrow. I think I need a new vizier." I walked out of the gallery. I didn't look back at the orchid wilting on the stage. I didn't look at the Queen Mother crying on the marble floor. I got into my own car. A black Mercedes. Functional. Paid for. The weather report. Low of 60. 100% chance of a new beginning. The silence after a revolution is never truly silent. It is a hum. The sound of air conditioning moving through a room that has just been emptied of its dignity. The sound of 500 donors whispering in the elevators of the Metropolitan Art Gallery. The sound of an $18,400 Ellie Saab gown dragging across a marble floor that is no longer hers. I stood at the service entrance. I watched them through the security monitors. Catherine was on her knees. She wasn't praying. She was trying to gather the discarded gala programs, as if she could put the numbers back inside the paper, as if she could unsee the spreadsheet. Isabella was leaning against a pillar. Her veneers looked unnaturally white against her gray skin. She looked like a statue that had been left in the rain for 100 years. Flashback to 2011. The Ledger of Slights. Isabella's 15th birthday. She wanted a party at a rented mansion with a professional DJ. Cost $12,500. I was 17. I had just won a regional design scholarship. Prize money, $1,000. Catherine took the check. "Sophie, honey, a scholarship is a personal achievement, but a 15th birthday is a family milestone. You have your brain. You're so smart. You don't need the money to feel valued. But Isabella, she needs the setting. An orchid won't bloom in a plastic pot. You're like a oak tree. You grow in the dirt. You grow in the dark. And the dark is free." I sat in my room that night. I didn't cry. I looked at the empty space where my scholarship check had been. I realized then that in this house, smart was just another word for self-sufficient. And self-sufficient was just another word for exploitable. The champagne was warm. The white orchids were starting to wilt. Julian Thorne was standing by the exit. He didn't look back at the stage. He looked at his watch. A Patek Philippe. Steel. Not gold. Real power doesn't need to shine. It just needs to be accurate. "Sophie?" he called out. His voice was a low vibration in the empty hall. The audit was precise. I don't keep people around me who lie to themselves. And I certainly don't keep people who lie to me. But a woman who can coordinate a gala and a demolition at the same time, that's an asset. I walked toward him. I didn't look at my mother. I didn't look at my sister. I didn't look at the Ellie Saab gown. I looked at the spreadsheet in my mind. The total debt of Catherine and Isabella, $235,422.10. The market value of the family home, $210,000. The math, they were $25,422.10 in the red, and I was the one who owned the red. The morning after the gala, 6 a.m., the family home. The air in the kitchen smelled like stale wine and expensive desperation. Catherine was sitting at the table. She was still wearing the Hermes scarf. The moth hole looked bigger in the morning light. Isabella was in the bathroom. I could hear the sound of the shower. It had been running for 45 minutes. She was trying to wash off the pure water scandal. She was trying to scrub the spreadsheet off her skin. Catherine looked at me. Her eyes were bloodshot. She didn't use the weather report charm. She used the microaggression weapon. Sophie, you've always had a cruel streak. It's that granite heart of yours you're always jealous of the way the light hit Isabella. You couldn't just be the sturdy girl, could you? You had to be the one to break the mirror. Do you know what you've done? Julian Thorne's lawyers have already sent a cease and desist. The donors are demanding refunds. The loan is due on Friday. You're the one with the steady paycheck. Sophie, you have to fix this. It's your duty as the backbone. I poured a cup of coffee. The mug was chipped at the rim. A $2 mug from a thrift store. I'm not the backbone anymore, Mom, I said. I'm the repo man. Don't be dramatic, Catherine hissed. You've always been so dramatic about money. It's just numbers on a screen. Isabella is devastated. She's an orchid, Sophie. She can't survive in the mud. You're built for the mud. You're stable like a piece of earth. Flashback to 2004. I was 12. Isabella was 6. It had rained the night before. There was a large puddle near the slide. Isabella wanted to see the reflection of her new dress in the water. She slipped. The dress, a $150 silk smock Catherine had bought on credit, was covered in mud. Catherine didn't scream at Isabella. She turned to me. Sophie, why didn't you catch her? You're the big sister. You're the sturdy one. You're supposed to be the ground she stands on. I spent 4 hours that night scrubbing the mud out of that dress. My fingers were raw. My back ached. Catherine sat on the sofa and brushed Isabella's hair. It's okay, Bella. Sophie will fix it. Sophie is good at the dirty work. It's her nature, 2023. The mud is where I live, Mom, I said. But I've learned how to build something in it. The house is gone. The Ellie Saab gown is a liability. And the orchid. The orchid is about to find out what happens when the ground stops holding it up. I walked to the door. I had an 8 a.m. meeting at Julian Thorne's office. $150,000 a year position. I didn't tell them. I didn't need their approval. I just needed the keys to the new car waiting for me in the driveway. A black Mercedes. Functional, powerful, paid for. Julian Thorne's office was a temple of glass and steel. No orchids. No white musk. The air smelled like ozone and expensive paper. My desk was a slab of gray slate. It was cold to the touch. I liked it. It felt like home. The grind montage. 30 years old. I coordinated the liquidation of a textile mill in South Carolina. I looked at the numbers. I didn't see the families. I saw the inventory of deception. 31 years old. I managed the merger of 2 shipping firms. I spent 18 hours a day in a room with 5 monitors. My breakfast was a cold espresso. My lunch was a salad I ate while reading contracts. I didn't buy a new wardrobe. I bought a pair of $1,200 boots. Stable. Leather. Built for the background. Every night I would come home to a different apartment. I didn't live in the family house. I lived in a loft downtown. Empty. I didn't want any furniture that reminded me of a sturdy chair. I checked the spreadsheet every night. Catherine and Isabella were living in a rental in a bad part of town. They had sold the Mason Pearson brush. They had sold the Hermes scarf. They were living on the $1,200 a month Isabella made as a receptionist at a mid-tier law firm, a job I had secretly arranged for her, a job where she had to wear a polyester uniform, a job where no one called her an orchid. Flashback to 2017, I was 25. I wanted to take a weekend trip to a design seminar in Chicago. Cost. Catherine told me, "We don't have the funds, Sophie. Isabella needs a socialite wardrobe for the summer season. She needs to look like she belongs at the yacht club. You have your books. You can read about design at the library. The library is free, and you're so good at being alone. It's your strength." I spent that weekend working a double shift at the construction site. I watched the sunset over a pile of gravel. I realized then that strength was just a word they used to describe my lack of a life, and family was just a word they used to describe my lack of a choice. 2024, Julian Thorne walked into my office. He dropped a file on my slate desk. "The family home is up for auction on Friday, Sophie. The debt has reached the ceiling. Do you want me to buy it for the company?" I looked at the file. I looked at the photo of the wraparound porch, the porch where I had mowed the lawn for 12 years, the porch where I had been told I was dusty. "No," I said. "I want to buy it myself. I want to be the one who signs the eviction notice." Friday. The family home. The for sale sign was crooked. The grass was long. Catherine had stopped paying the gardener 6 months ago. The fragile orchid was sitting on a suitcase on the porch. Isabella was wearing a sweatshirt from a discount store. The Ellie Saab gown had been sold for $2,000 to a consignment shop. It paid for 2 months of electricity. I drove up in the black Mercedes. I didn't get out of the car. I rolled down the window. October. Catherine walked down the steps. She looked 80. She was wearing a coat I had bought her 4 years ago. A practical coat. A sturdy coat. "Sophie, honey, thank God you're here." "The bank sent a man's store." "You've bought the house, haven't you? You're going to let us stay." "You're the backbone, Sophie. You'll always take care of us. It's your nature." I looked at her. I didn't use the microaggression. I used the audit. "The house is no longer a family home, Mom. It's a commercial asset. I've signed a lease with a construction firm. They're going to turn it into a storage facility. For granite." Isabella stood up. Her veneers looked too big for her thin face. "Sophie, you can't do this. Where are we supposed to go? We have no money. We have no one." "You have your potential, Isabella," I said. "You're an orchid. You'll find a new garden. Or maybe you'll find out what happens when you have to grow in the dirt." Catherine grabbed the door of the Mercedes. Her fingers were red from the cold. "Sophie, you're a monster. How can you be so cold to your own blood?" "I'm not cold, Mom," I said. "I'm stable. And a stable person knows when a structure is no longer safe to live in. The car is waiting for you. Not a limo, a bus. I've paid for a month at a women's shelter. It's safe, it's functional, it's dusty. You'll blend right in." I rolled up the window. I watched them in the rearview mirror. Isabella was crying. Catherine was screaming at the house. The house didn't answer. The granite didn't move. I drove away. I didn't look back. I had a 1 p.m. meeting about a steel merger. The math? $500 million in assets. $0 in emotions. The spreadsheet was finally balanced. 5 years later, the Metropolitan Art Gallery. A different gala. The Thorne Sophie Foundation for Clean Water. A global infrastructure firm. We dig wells. We use granite. I was standing in the center of the room, under the $50,000 crystal chandelier. I wasn't wearing an Ellie Saab gown. I was wearing a black suit. Tailored. $6,000. I had $1 million reputation. The donors didn't look at my sparkle. They looked at my results. Julian Thorne was standing next to me. You've come a long way from the catering tent, Sophie. I never left the catering tent, Julian, I said. I just bought the gallery. At the back of the room near the service entrance, I saw a woman. She was wearing a black catering uniform. She was carrying a tray of champagne. She looked tired. She looked dusty. She had been working for my firm for 3 years. She didn't get a spotlight. Tanader. That's her shit for me. Taju the jiti susho. Tayomish is what yon shunks out of the Joshoji. Catherine was in a nursing home, a stable facility. White walls, fluorescent lights. She had a small window. It looked out at an oak tree. I paid the bills every month. I didn't visit. I didn't need to. The silence was the only conversation we had left. Isabella walked toward me with the tray. Champagne, Miss Sophie? Her voice was low, flat, stable. Thank you, Isabella, I said. I took the glass. I didn't look at her face. I looked at the tray. There's a smudge on the glass. Fix it. We don't want the donors to think we're messy. It ruins the aesthetic. She nodded. She walked away. She didn't cry. Orchids don't cry when they're made of granite. I took a sip of the champagne. It was real. It was expensive. It tasted like work. It tasted like the 16th birthday I never had. It tasted like the house I never owned. It tasted like the gray daughter who finally became the iron spine. I looked at the crystal chandelier. It was heavy. It was beautiful. And it was held up by the ceiling. And the ceiling was held up by the walls. And the walls were held up by the foundation. And I was the foundation. And I was never going to move. The kitchen of the Metropolitan Art Gallery is a place of steam and steel. It is 11:14 p.m. The gala is over. The billionaires have gone home to their high thread count sheets. Isabella is standing at the industrial sink. She is scraping the remains of a $150 lobster thermidor into a green plastic bin. The fragile orchid is covered in grease. Her hair, the hair that used to cost $300 a month to maintain, is matted under a hairnet. A 5-cent hairnet? She is wearing yellow rubber gloves. They're stained with the residue of other people's luxury. She earns $14.50 an hour. After taxes and the dormitory fee I deduct from her paycheck, she takes home $840 a month. Exactly the amount she used to spend on a single pair of shoes. I stood in the doorway. I was holding a glass of mineral water. Evian. Chilled to 42 degrees. The lobster is cold, Isabella, I said. Don't eat the scraps. It ruins the discipline. She didn't look up. She kept scrubbing a burnt pot. The sound of the steel wool against the metal was like a scream in a vacuum. I wasn't eating them, she whispered. I was just looking. Looking is the first step to wanting, I said. And wanting is what got you into that shelter. Remember the $12,000 veneers? They're starting to yellow. You should spend less time looking at lobster and more time looking at the clock. You're behind on the glassware. I was 19. I was working the night shift at a 24-hour diner. I came home at 6 a.m. with $40 in tips. Catherine was in the kitchen. She was making crepes for Isabella. Sophie, honey, Isabella has a pageant rehearsal today. She needs a special silk ribbon for her hair. It's $35. Since you have those tips, you won't mind, will you? You're so stable. You don't need ribbons. You're built for the night shift. You're like a piece of coal. You just burn and provide heat. But Isabella is the light. I gave her the $35. I went to sleep on a mattress that smelled like old cooking oil. I realized then that light is a parasite. It needs coal to exist. And I was tired of being the fuel. Now, I watched Isabella scrub the pot. She was the coal now. But she wasn't providing heat. She was just getting dirty. The shift ends at midnight, I said. Don't forget to mop the mud. You're good at the dirty work. It's your nature. The kitchen of the Metropolitan Art Gallery is a place of steam and steel. It is 11:14 p.m. The gala is over. The billionaires have gone home to their high thread count sheets. Isabella is standing at the industrial sink. She is scraping the remains of a $150 lobster thermidor into a green plastic bin. The fragile orchid is covered in grease. Her hair, the hair that used to cost $300 a month to maintain, is matted under a hairnet. A 5-cent hairnet. She is wearing yellow rubber gloves. They are stained with the residue of other people's luxury. She earns $14.50 an hour. After taxes and the dormitory fee I deduct from her paycheck, she takes home $840 a month. Exactly the amount she used to spend on a single pair of shoes. I stood in the doorway. I was holding a glass of mineral water. Evian, chilled to 42 degrees. The lobster is cold, Isabella, I said. Don't eat the scraps. It ruins the discipline. She didn't look up. She kept scrubbing a burnt pot. The sound of the steel wool against the metal was like a scream in a vacuum. I wasn't eating them, she whispered. I was just looking. Looking is the first step to wanting, I said. And wanting is what got you into that shelter. Remember the $12,000 veneers? They're starting to yellow. You should spend less time looking at lobster and more time looking at the clock. You're behind on the glassware. Flashback to 2013. I was 19. I was working the night shift at a 24-hour diner. I came home at 6 a.m. with $40 in tips. Catherine was in the kitchen. She was making crepes for Isabella. Sophie, honey, Isabella has a pageant rehearsal today. She needs a special silk ribbon for her hair. It's $35 since you have those tips. You won't mind, will you? You're so stable. You don't need ribbons. You're built for the night shift. You're like a piece of coal. You're like a piece of coal. You just burn and provide heat. But Isabella is the light. I gave her the $35. I went to sleep on a mattress that smelled like old cooking oil. I realized then that light is a parasite. It needs coal to exist. And I was tired of being the fuel. Now, I watched Isabella scrub the pot. She was the coal now, but she wasn't providing heat. She was just getting dirty. The shift ends at midnight, I said. Don't forget to mop the mud. You're good at the dirty work. It's your nature. The stable facility is located 30 miles outside the city. It is a building of beige brick and fluorescent lights. It smells of lavender bleach and industrial mashed potatoes. I visit once every 6 months. Not to talk, but to audit the care. Catherine was sitting in a wheelchair by the window. She was wearing a cardigan I bought for her at a warehouse sale. Acrylic. $12. A Hermes scarf was a memory. The Ellie Saab dream was a ghost. She looked at the oak tree in the courtyard, the tree I paid $4,000 a month to ensure she could see. Sophie, she said. Her voice was a rasp, the sound of a dry leaf dragging across concrete. Isabella called me. She said you have her in the kitchen. She said she smells like bleach. She's an orchid, Sophie. You're killing her. I looked at my watch. 10 a.m. I had a board meeting at 11:30. The orchid is surviving, Mom, I said. She has a roof. She has a paycheck. She has a hairnet. That's more than you gave me when I was 14. I was trying to give us a future, Catherine cried. A nurse looked in the door. I gave her a nod. The nurse retreated. I was trying to get us out of the mud. You were the strong one, Sophie. You were supposed to carry us. I did carry you, I said. I carried you until my back grew into an iron spine. And once it was iron, it couldn't bend anymore. I don't owe you a vision, Mom. I owe you a room with a window. And the window is clean. The audit is complete. Flashback to 2016. Catherine had a minor emergency. She needed $2,000 for a stress management retreat. Isabella is so difficult lately, Sophie. I need to align my energy so I can be a better mother to her. You understand, don't you? You're so grounded. You're like the floor. You don't need a retreat because you never move. I paid for the retreat. I stayed home and worked 90 hours that week. I realized then that the floor is what people walk on to get to the retreat, and I was done being walked on. I stood up. I straightened my Armani jacket. The bills are paid through December, Mom. Don't call Isabella. It ruins her concentration. And in the kitchen, concentration is the difference between a paycheck and an eviction. I walked out of the beige building. I got into the black Mercedes. The air in the car smelled like leather and success. I drove toward the glass and steel of the city. The floor was finally moving. Julian Thorne is a man who values the grind. We don't go to galas to dance. We go to galas to observe the structural integrity of other people's empires. We sit at the head table. We drink sparkling water. We look for the cracks. Your sister's a good worker, Julian said. We were in his private jet. 4 a.m., flying to Singapore for a steel merger. She's quiet. She's efficient. She's almost invisible. She's learning the value of the background, I said. It's a hard lesson for an orchid. And the mother? The mother is stable, I said. She has a window. She has a cardigan. She has the silence she earned. Julian looked at me. His eyes were the color of a winter sky. You're a cold woman, Sophie. It's why I trust you with the billions. Most people are liquid. They leak when the pressure gets too high. But you're a solid. You just get denser. Pressure is just a measurement of the environment, Julian, I said. I've lived in high pressure since I was 12. I've learned how to turn the carbon into a diamond. And a diamond doesn't leak. The grind montage. 32 years old. I closed the Singapore merger. I earned a $2 million bonus. I didn't buy a villa. I didn't buy a yacht. I bought a textile mill. The same mill where Catherine's father had worked. The one he was fired from. I turned it into a high-tech filtration plant. I hired 500 women. I gave them stable wages. I gave them iron benefits. I told them, don't be an orchid. Be the foundation. I checked the spreadsheet every night. Isabella's savings, $4,200. She was trying to buy a used car, a 2015 Honda. Functional. Dull. I blocked the purchase. You're not ready for the responsibility of an engine, Isabella. I told her via an HR memo. Use the bus. The bus is stable. The bus is for the background. 6 months later. My office. Isabella was standing in front of my slate desk. She was wearing her catering uniform. She had a smudge of flour on her sleeve. She didn't look like a socialite. She looked like a worker. I'd like to request a raise, Sophie, she said. Her voice was low. It had lost the orchid flutter. It sounded like gravel. I've been with the firm for 3 years. I haven't missed a shift. I've cleaned every pot. I want to move out of the dormitory. I want to have a life. I looked at her. I picked up my Mont Blanc pen. $450. A life is an expensive asset, Isabella. It requires a high level of maintenance. And based on your performance history, you have a tendency to overspend on the aesthetic. I'm not that person anymore, she cried. She slammed her hand on the slate. It made a dull, solid thud. I scrub floors. I carry trays. I smell like industrial soap. I've paid the debt. The debt of the money is paid, Isabella, I said. But the debt of the vision is infinite. You wanted the spotlight. I gave you the shadows. The shadows are where you're safe. In the spotlight, you're a fraud. In the shadows, you're a caterer. Which would you rather be? She looked at me. Her eyes were full of a fire I hadn't seen before. It wasn't the spark Catherine talked about. It was the burn of the coal. I'd rather be you, she whispered. I'd rather be the one holding the tray of thorns. You're not ready for the thorns, Isabella, I said. You're still worried about the smudge on your sleeve? A vizier doesn't care about the sleeve. A vizier cares about the empire. Go back to the kitchen. There's a shipment of white musk coming in. It needs to be organized by scent and by price. She didn't say thank you. Present day. The Metropolitan Art Gallery. The 10th anniversary of the Sophie Thorne Foundation. I am standing on the balcony overlooking the gala. Julian Thorne is at the podium. He is talking about resilience. He is talking about the iron spine of the city. I look at the catering staff. Isabella is the head coordinator now. She doesn't wear a hairnet. She wears a black suit. Functional. $800 tailoring. She is directing the servers with a subtle movement of her hand. She doesn't look for the spotlight anymore. She moves the spotlight to where it needs to be. She has finally learned that power is not about being seen. Power is about being the one who controls the switch. I feel a vibration in my pocket. A text from the stable facility. Catherine has passed away. Time, 11:59 p.m. Cause, natural causes. The window was open. She was looking at the oak tree. I look at my glass of champagne. Crystal clear. Ice cold. I don't cry. Tears are liquid. Liquid is a leak, and I am a solid. I take out my Mont Blanc pen. The $450 one. I open the final page of my ledger. I write the final entry. Catherine, account liquidated. Isabella, assets stabilized. Sophie, structure absolute. I walk down the balcony stairs. My Armani suit whispers against the marble. The donors look at me. They don't see the dusty daughter. They see the woman who turned a desert of betrayal into an empire of steel. I pass Isabella in the hall. She stops. She gives me a small professional nod, a vizier's nod. The evening is going according to plan, Miss Sophie. The logistics are perfect. I know, Isabella. I say, because I'm the one who audited the plan. I am 37 years old. I am the CEO of Thorne Sophie Global. I have $1 billion in assets, and I have 0 people who can break me. My mother was right about one thing. I was the granite, and granite doesn't need to be loved. It just needs to be the thing that never moves. This is the legacy of the sturdy chair. I am the iron spine of my own world. And the view from the foundation, it is perfectly, eternally stable.